And I'm telling you, it's not cooked properly.
May I ask what this is about?
Kate, I'll handle this.
I'll take you to the chef.
Yes, ma'am.
That's wonderful. Something I'd like to show you.
Don't do this.
My wife's foie gras hasn't been cooked long enough.
Excuse me, sir, why didn't I bring you a new appetizer with my compliment?
My foie gras is cooked just fine.
It's nothing to be ashamed of, honey. Even the best stumble over foie gras.
There's nothing wrong with this. It's precisely comme il faut.
What is that supposed to mean?
Comme il faut, as it should be. 140 degrees in the oven, 80 degrees water temperature for 25 minutes. Not too long, not too short, with a perfect touch of pink. Honey.
That's it. Take our business somewhere else. Let's go.
May I suggest Vinny's hot dog stand in the corner? He cooks to order.
Well, Catherine Zeta-Jones is definitely a beautiful chef, but will you too do the same thing as what she did in the movie? Refuse to serve a customer? Will you do that, Eric?
Refuse to serve them?
Uh-huh.
No, never.
Never? So in other words, you will change your recipes if one of the customer comes in and said, hey, this is not the correct way to cook it.
For one person? Absolutely. The only time I would say no in our restaurant is if someone asks for something that we physically don't have.
What about you, David?
Well, I'll tell you, years ago when I was a lot more of a hothead, no, I was a very terrible chef in that regards to not changing things and so on. But as I've gotten older and gotten more involved in the business side, I've also become very much aware of that I have to do what the customer wants. It does come with a disclaimer though. If somebody makes me change something, if they don't like it, it's their problem. You know what I mean? I cook to my level of proficiency, and if someone else thinks they can cook better, that's great. They can have the dish, but then don't say you didn't like it because it's your dish then. You know what I mean? It ceased to be my dish.
Okay. So, let's go back to the original question. Fusion. What's fusion food to you?
It's a mix of basically East and West ingredients. Or what you can do is that you do techniques, like Western techniques, and then infuse it with Eastern ingredients.
I think that when people use the word fusion with respect to food, they usually mean Western techniques and some Western ingredients, but with a healthy amount of Asian ingredients.
It's got a lot to do with the stigma that it's become, and as I said earlier, how badly it's been done at times. But where do you draw the line? When does coriander in Australia cease to be a local product? If something's been grown there for so long, it's like Americans would assume ketchup is theirs. For example, we know ketchup was invented in China. Is ketchup fusion when you put it on a hamburger? So where do you draw the line? And I personally, put my food out in another place where I use ingredients that are global, and I work with techniques as I wish. I don't want to put any labels or boundaries on it, and I pull away from the word fusion profusely.
Let me ask you.
Why?
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
Do you remove the word fusion and take the definition?
Like Sammy
just said, do you do that?
If I said, do I
use Western presentation with Western techniques and some Asian ingredients?
Yeah.
I guess to some degree, if you take away the word, I could say that I do use varied techniques and varied ingredients. Do I follow any one pattern? No. I vary my pattern. Sometimes it could be a Japanese presentation using Western ingredients.
Yes.
It's what bugs me is the misunderstanding of the concept, which is why I pull away from it, and I'm so passionate about not being described that way.
Well, the reason why I said when people use the word fusion, that's what they mean. I think that's true. However, in actuality, I think fusion food doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist. Yeah, I agree.
Doesn't exist.
Now you agree with me then.
What do you mean by doesn't exist?
You said fusion food is bad. Now I'm going to argue that it doesn't
Technicality.
exist. Yeah,
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
Why?
And the reason is globalization is not something that happened in the last 10 years.
Okay.
And we were talking about it earlier.
Well, that's my very point.
Right. So aside from the label, you mentioned Thai food is a recent cuisine. Chilies are not native to Thailand. So we all like Thai food, I'm assuming. Do you want to take the chilies out? No, of course not.
Yeah.
So that's been going on. Potatoes are not native to Europe. So mashed potato or potato puree is like very much a part of classic French cuisine. But so when's the date?
I totally. Well, that's exactly what I'm saying.
So I think you just don't like the word.
I hate the word.
But okay, but when people say it, that's what they mean, and I don't think there's anything wrong with mixing ingredients. We love to do that.
Which is
you
why,
love it, and I love it.
Which is why I want someone to define it in a more precise way or a nicer way. And I think what happens is also, oftentimes journalists use it as a lazy way to explain a certain type of cuisine. If it's not understood, if it happens to have a bit of Western, a bit of it's fusion, so it just becomes a shortcut to defining something. And I don't believe fundamentally that everything has to be defined. I think certain things can remain undefined.
Okay.
And just be.
Now he's now criticizing people like you, like journalists. Because of your laziness. So that's
why you gotta take shots at me?
I know.
I feel like that.
I hate the word fusion, but
you hate it too.
I hate it too, but I don't know if it's right to call it global cuisine.
Since you don't like the word fusion, okay. So, give us a definition of that.
Contemporary food is the food that exists at the most relevant point in our current timeline in history. So it's today.
Well, anything could be contemporary, of course. I mean, like Sichuan, whether it's from Sichuan or Japan or Australia.
I disagree slightly, because if Sichuan is following its classic recipes, then it's a regional classic cuisine. If somebody takes Sichuan elements out and does other things with them, then it becomes contemporary. And I'll give you an example. I do hairy crab dishes in Laos during hairy crab season, right?
Okay.
But of course, I don't do exactly Chinese hairy crab dishes. But I use 100% Chinese ingredients. I may vary the techniques, and I come up with my version of hairy crab. And I pair it with things like Dom Perignon and other wine pairings. So that becomes a contemporary version, an interpretation of classic Chinese cuisine.
Doesn't that fit into the category of the definition we gave for fusion?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I agree that if you want to call it something, I conceded to a degree. I conceded.
All right, fine.
I conceded.
All right, it's over.
To a degree.
So, do you have any suggestions for the audience? Some basic recipes you recommend to our Chinese audience to start with? I mean, as a Western chef.
Is it a Western dish?
Yeah, Western dish.
I think a great place for people to start, if they want to start playing around with Western food, is with soups.
Soups,
because it's an easy thing to manage. Even if you don't have a blender, but you can use a varied amount of local ingredients and cook them in a Western way to make